Long before Europeans, the Lenape lived along these rivers, fishing, hunting, and tending their villages. They harvested the forests and waters of the island we now call Manhattan. Their world changed with the arrival of European explorers. In 1524, Giovanni da Verrazzano, sailing for France, entered New York Harbor. The pivotal voyage came in 1609 with Henry Hudson, sailing for the Dutch East India Company. His exploration opened the way for Dutch trade. The Dutch set up trading posts, and by 1624, a settlement at Manhattan's tip, New Amsterdam. It became an early hub of commerce and diversity. Land deals and negotiations followed between the Dutch and the Lenape. In 1626, the Dutch are said to have purchased Manhattan for goods worth 60 guilders. The story often becomes the myth of Manhattan bought for just $24. In reality, the exchange reflected complex colonial relations. New Amsterdam drew settlers from many nations and faiths. Its early reputation as a melting pot began here. But politics soon reshaped the colony. In 1664, English forces arrived and took control without major battle. They renamed the colony New York for the Duke of York. Under British rule, the port continued to grow. New York became a vital port and commercial center. It hosted the Stamp Act Congress in 1765, an early move toward colonial unity. The city would be occupied during the Revolutionary War. From 1776 to 1783, the British used New York as their North American stronghold. After independence, New York briefly served as the nation's capital. George Washington took the oath on Wall Street in 1789. The 19th century would transform the city, starting with the Erie Canal in 1825. It linked New York to the interior and made the port the nation's busiest. Immigration and industry soon followed, reshaping the city forever. Their stories begin the next chapter. Waves of immigrants reshaped New York across the 1800s. They arrived seeking new lives and opportunity. Ellis Island became the gateway for millions. Many were Irish fleeing famine. Many were German, seeking work and land. Large numbers of Italians settled in tight-knit neighborhoods. Jewish communities brought vibrant cultural life. Together, they made New York a city of many tongues. More than 200 languages would later be spoken here. Rapid growth brought overcrowding and harsh tenement life. Families lived in compact, often unsanitary conditions. Social reform and labor movements responded to those needs. Infrastructure projects linked the city to commerce and jobs. Institutions like Central Park and the Met rose from this era. Politics were often dominated by machines such as Tammany Hall. In 1898, the five boroughs, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island, united as one city. This consolidation created the modern New York. Skyscrapers began to redefine the skyline. The 1920s brought the Harlem Renaissance, a flowering of black art and thought. Poets, musicians, and artists reshaped American culture. Broadway emerged as the nation's theater center. The Great Depression hit New York hard, with widespread hardship. Large public projects provided jobs and reshaped the city. After World War II, New York became a global center of commerce and diplomacy. The Statue of Liberty, dedicated in 1886, became an icon for arrivals and ideals. For millions, it symbolized hope and a new start. The 19th century set New York on a path to world prominence. The city's story continued into the modern age. By the early 1900s, New York had become America's largest city. Skyscrapers rose rapidly, reshaping the city vertically. Industry, finance, and culture converged on the streets below. Harlem became a cultural hub for black artists in the 1920s. Broadway continued to define theater in America. Later decades gave birth to hip-hop, punk rock, and street art. In 1946, the United Nations chose New York as its headquarters. The city symbolized post-war American modernity. Finance and media anchored its global role. The 1970s brought crisis, crime, fiscal collapse, and near bankruptcy in 1975. The city faced hard choices and restructuring, yet cultural creativity helped spark renewal. In the 1980s and 1990s, real estate and financial growth reshaped neighborhoods. Gentrification and development transformed the urban fabric. Through change, the city's diversity remained its strength. On September 11, 2001, New York suffered a devastating attack. Nearly 3,000 lives were lost, and the nation mourned. The city began a long process of recovery and remembrance. Rebuilding culminated with One World Trade Center, opened in 2014. It stands as a symbol of resilience and renewal. Memorials ensure we remember those lost. The COVID-19 pandemic struck New York hard in 2020, emptying streets and hospitals straining. Healthcare workers and communities fought to save lives. Today, the city also wrestles with housing costs and gentrification. Yet New York remains a global center of finance, culture, and diplomacy. With over 8 million residents speaking hundreds of languages, diversity defines it. From immigrant neighborhoods to iconic skylines, the city continually reinvents itself. New York's legacy is resilience, diversity, and constant reinvention.